Hello and welcome to Spectrum TV News, a recap of major stories within the week. I am Francis Oyima Edet, coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State. Let's take a look at the headlines. Akwa Ibom State Governor Pastor Umoino announces his readiness to host maiden edition of Ibom Dialogue. Plus, NATO head Stoltenberg says Putin victory biggest risks of war in Ukraine. We will bring you details of these stories and more in a moment. Joining us first in the news within the week is Nigeria's leader, President Bola Tinubu, who has called on African leaders to respect democracy, rule of law, and ensure political stability. He also called on the United Nations to take firm stance against military coups. The president spoke in Nairobi, Kenya, at a high-level event organized by the United Nations Development Programme on the margins of 5th Mid-Year African Union Coordination Meeting. Tinubu also urged African military institutions and states to recognize and respect the need that coup d'etat should be discouraged in the continent, especially in the face of challenges like the COVID-19 pandemic, insecurity, and climate change. The president, in his statement presented by the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Adamu Lamuwa, said it was regrettable that West Africa, despite its numerous instruments and mechanisms for promoting democracy and good governance, is leading other regions in the use of unconstitutional means. Cautioned state governments to be mindful of deliberations on labor matters, as issues of labor are on the exclusive legislative list that is strictly for the federal government. Permanent Secretary, Federal Minister of Labor and Employment, Kacholum Daju, stated this in her keynote address at the 2023 session of the National Labour Advisory Council meeting in Uyo, parallel to those developed by the federal government, stressing that with the removal of the petrol subsidy, there was a need to make a conscious effort to align the minimum wage with the current economic realities in line with international standards. She urged council members to view the meeting as a contribution to nation building, assuring them of the ministry's commitment to improving and strengthening the council within the available resources. Meanwhile, the federal government, through the draft handbook on citizenship administration in Nigeria. This was as the ministry reportedly denied increasing the cost of obtaining a citizenship expatriate resident alien card. The Permanent Secretary, Minister of Interior, Oluwatoyin Akinlade, in a statement, disclosed that the government was reacting to speculations in the social media that the card cost had increased from $2,000 to $3,000. Akinlade, while giving the assurance that the ongoing review of the draft handbook on citizenship administration in Nigeria will be implemented to serve as a robust guidelines that will drive the citizenship administration, urged Nigerians to disregard the misinformation. In the meantime, the federal government in the course of the week said that the switch from the use of premium motor spirit, popularly called petrol, to autogas will save about 1.84 trillion naira monthly for commercial vehicle operators in Nigeria. It disclosed this in a document put together by the Nigerian Institute of Transport Technology (NITT), where it explained that a typical commercial Uber car could save 274,176 naira every month by running on autogas, not petrol. The NITT noted that with the deployment and usage of autogas as also championed. In a separate development, the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet group within the week appointed former Vice President of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, as global advisor to assist JIP's mission on accelerating clean energy deployment in developing countries. According to a statement announcing the appointment on the company's website, Simanjor will support JEEP's partnership with governments to enhance the enabling environment and delivery effectiveness to unlock faster and greater capital flows into the clean energy sector. The statement added that the former vice president will also continue his activity as a leading advocate for just energy transitions in Africa, including scaling of Africa's share of the global carbon market via the African Carbon Markets Initiative. Meanwhile, in this remark, Sibanjo said he is honored by the opportunity to join the movement for green energy access. In another development, the federal government, through the Debt Management Office (DMO), during the week redeemed a $500 million Eurobond on its due date. The Eurobond was issued in July 2013 as a part of a dual tranches $1 billion Eurobond for a 10-year at a coupon of 6.375% per annum. The DMO said Nigeria had previously redeemed a $500 million Eurobond in July 2018, another $500 million Eurobond in January 2021, and a $300 million diaspora bond in June 2022. According to the Debt Management Office, these, together with a $500 million Eurobond redeemed, bring the total amount of securities redeemed by Nigeria in the International Capital Market (ICM) to $1.8 billion. We move to the legislature, where the Senate, in the course of the week, screened the recently appointed service chiefs. The Senate, on resumption and plenary, started the screening of the service chief, with each of them mounting the podium to speak on how they will tackle insecurity in the country if confirmed. The service chief being screened include Major General C.G. Musa, Chief of Defense Staff, Major General T.A. Lagbaja, Chief of Army Staff, Rear Admiral E.A. Ogala, Chief of Naval Staff, AVM H.B. Abubakar, Chief of Air Staff, DIG Kayode Betokun, Acting Inspector General of Police, and Major General E.P.A. Odiandeye, Chief of Defense Intelligence. Recall that President Bola Tinubu had, in a letter to the Senate, requested that the upper chamber confirm the nomination of these within the week, ordered a detailed investigation into anomalies that characterized the trips of Nigerian Hajj pilgrims to Saudi Arabia this year. The order for a probe followed the adoption of a motion titled "Need to investigate the untold hardship faced by Nigerian pilgrims at the recently concluded 2023 Hajj." The House noted that a total of 95,000 Nigerians went for the Hajj pilgrimage. Meanwhile, the head of the Nigerian medical team for the pilgrimage, Dr. Usman. Away from that, the chairman, Conference of Speakers of State Legislatures of Nigeria, Abubakar Suleiman, during the week, declared that state houses of assembly in Nigeria have become financially autonomous. Suleiman disclosed that the country's constitution had been successfully amended to provide financial autonomy for state houses of assembly. The Conference of Speakers chairman made this known during the induction of State House speakers in Abuja. The chairman, who is also the speaker of he expressed confidence that the autonomy would bolster legislative institutions at the state level and ultimately ensure sound governance. On judicial matters, the Presidential Election Petition Court (PEPC) in the course of the week reserved judgment in a petition by the Allied People's Movement (APM). APM is seeking the nullification of Tinubu's election on the grounds that his running mate Kashim Shettima was not qualified to contest, having allegedly engaged in double nomination. After parties adopted their final written addresses, the chairman of the panel, Justice Aruna Samani, announced that judgment was reserved until a date to be communicated to parties. Justice Samani added that the court plans to deliver judgment in the petition by the APM the same day with those of the People's Democratic Party and Labour Party. Meanwhile, another Abuja High Court within the week voided the arrest and detention of the suspended Central Bank Governor Godwin Emefiele by the Department of State Services. Delivering judgment, Justice Bello Kawu held that the arrest, detention, and interrogation of Emefiele is in violation of the subsisting judgment and orders of Justice M.A. Hassan. Emefiele, through his counsel Peter Abang, had asked the court to set aside and nullify the arrest and detention of the applicant for being illegal, and in nullity made an order setting aside any warrant of arrest obtained or procured by the respondents, especially the DSS, for the arrest of Emefiele in connection with the allegations of terrorism financing, fraudulent practices, money laundering, threat to national security before any court, retaining or interfering with Emefiele's personal liberty and freedom of movement. In the meantime, the Federal High Court in Abuja during the week dismissed a suit filed by Smart Adeyemi challenging the primary election to produce Ahmed Ododo as the candidate of the All Progressive Congress APC for the Kogi State governorship election scheduled for November 2023. Adeyemi, a former lawmaker representing Kogi West Senatorial District, had approached the Federal High Court seeking to nullify the governorship primary election the All Progressive Congress APC held in the state on the ground that it was not validly conducted. However, delivering judgment, Justice James Omotosho held that Adeyemi did not prove his allegation that Ododo was not lawfully nominated by the APC and did not, by way of credible evidence, establish his allegation. The court held that, contrary to the position of the plaintiff, there was evidence that the primary election was validly held and monitored by the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC), adding that the allegations the plaintiff raised in the suit were criminal in nature and therefore ought to be proved beyond reasonable doubt. Still in judicial matters, the Federal Capital Territory High Court in the course of the week dismissed the case against former Governor of Imo State Rochas Okorocha by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC). The court described the EFCC's charges of fraud and abuse of office as an abuse of judicial process. The presiding judge, Justice Yusuf Halilu, premised his judgment on the fact that the EFCC had filed similar charges against the former Imo State Governor at a federal high court, which case was decided upon in favor of the former governor in December last year. Recall that the EFCC had on January 24, 2022 filed a 17-count criminal charge against Okorocha bordering on diversion of public funds and properties to the tune of 2.9 billion naira. Has advocated adequate preparation against national disasters, including massive floods, to reduce impact and damages in terms of loss of lives and property. Reports say the country is anticipating catastrophic flood disasters across many states this year, following the Nigerian Meteorological Agency's forecast for 2023. Komolafe spoke at the sidelines of the Nigeria Spatial Annual Quality, Health, Safety and Environment QHSSE and Risk Managers Hybrid Congress and 4th Annual Emergency Preparedness Week and exhibitions of the Emergency, Crisis and Disaster Risk Management Institute, which began on the 12th of July in Yenagoa, Bayelsa State. He said the NUPRC had given priority to preparedness for emergency occurrences in the oil and gas industry and had put in place the requisite logistics to handle such emergencies in the sector. Speaking on the essence of the Institute Annual Emergency Forum, Komolafe noted that the imperatives of emergency crisis, disaster and risk management require sufficient understanding for the planning and execution of emergency response. In another development, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission (ICPC) within the week said it has recovered 454 billion naira looted public funds and secured 90 convictions in the last 4 years. The ICPC Resident Anti-Corruption Commissioner in Osun State, Demola Bakare, disclosed these at an event in Ede to mark this year's African Union Anti-Corruption Day. In his presentation, titled Highlight of the Commission's Achievement in the Fight Against Corruption in Nigeria, Bakare said the recoveries were made through funds restraint, tax intervention, cash recovered from domiciliary accounts, rent received from some properties forfeited to the government, budget tracking, and cash in other accounts, amongst others. Away from that, the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority (NCAA) during the week suspended the operations of all Boeing B-737 aircraft of domestic carrier Max Air. In a letter signed by the NCAA Director of Operations, Training and Licensing Ibrahim Danbanzo, on behalf of the agency's Director General Musa Nuhu, the suspension is with immediate effect. According to the letter, all domestic flights of the airline will be on hold until the suspension is lifted. Elsewhere, the British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak in the course of the week announced an increase in visa application fee paid by immigrants. The announcement came after a speech regarding an increase in public sector wages. Sunak confirmed that part of the funding for the wage increase will be raised from the foreign migrants who come to the United Kingdom to live and work. He also said the surcharge paid for the state-funded National Health Service (NHS) by visa applicants by immigrants will increase significantly. Recall that the Prime Minister had said a few weeks earlier at the United States Embassy that he would be increasing fees for processing non-immigrant visa (NIV) applications. In another development, Imo State government has increased minimum wage of workers in the state to 40,000 naira as part of measures put in place to cushion the effect of the removal of fuel subsidy by the federal government. Addressing a strategic stakeholder meeting in Owerri, the Imo State capital, Governor Hobo Zadima also disclosed that his government will make available 5 billion naira sub-loan for farmers to enhance their productivity. The governor further reeled out some other measures that will ameliorate the sufferings of Imo people in all sectors. And back here, Akwa Ibom State Governor Pastor Omoiner has announced his readiness to host the maiden edition of Ibom Dialogue, a summit of subject matter experts and stakeholders in the focal sector of his administration's RISE agenda from Monday 24th to Thursday 27th of July 2023. The RISE agenda comprises agricultural revolution, rural development, infrastructural maintenance and advancement, security management, and educational advancement. Addressing attendees at the July edition of the Government House Monthly Prayer Service at the Later House Chapel, Government House Uyo, Pastor Moino invited stakeholders in key sectors of development to converge for the summit. The governor also used the occasion to announce state government's preparedness to activate a geographical information system (GIS) that captures all lands and indicates ownership to expedite approval of certificates of occupancy (COF) to deserving citizens and allow access to property status at just a click of a button. He also cautioned leaders and members of dissolved non-statutory boards to desist from continuing to act in their erstwhile capacities, reiterating his position in the June 21, 2023 official statement that such former appointees should hand over to the most senior civil servant in the board, except for statutory boards or constituted limited liability companies. Government House correspondent Jane Uwa reports that, speaking for the Pastor Moino, frowned at the behavior of some elites who flout his directive that nominations for appointment of governor's aide be made by stakeholders of each ward by staying afar to make nominations across wards. The governor explained that the idea of allowing ward leaders to make the nominations was deliberate to activate the involvement of the grassroots in the government and to keep up with the power to the people mantra of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. And still to come in the news,
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
And thanks for staying with us. We move on to continue with the rest of the news stories. We start with Africa, where the UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR, within the week urged Ghana to hold the expulsion of refugees from Burkina Faso. UNHCR said it was concerned by reports that hundreds of Burkinabe citizens, mainly women and children, had been deported from Ghana after fleeing there to escape violence in their homeland. The agency added that it was ready to provide more support to Ghana to address the needs of refugees. Meanwhile, Ghana during the week defended its policy of sending asylum seekers back to Burkina Faso after the UN Refugee Agency urged it to stop deportations. Ghana's National Security Ministry said suspected terrorists and illegal migrants were being repatriated in accordance with international protocols. The ministry noted that Burkina Faso is in the grip of an Islamist insurgency, and Ghana is concerned that the militants could take advantage of the flow of refugees to infiltrate its territory. Elsewhere, the Rapid Support Forces, RSF, and allied militias in the course of the week reportedly deny any role in recent violence in West Darfur, slamming allegations by Human Rights Watch HRW that they waged a massacre. According to HRW, 28 members of the Masali tribe were killed and dozens of civilians were injured by the RSF and allies, who then destroyed the town of Misteri in May. But an advisor to the RSF, Top Brass Mustafa Ibrahim, said the clashes in the town were part of an ongoing civil war between local tribes and the Masali tribes. Ibrahim said the RSF had no base in Misteri and accuses HRW of relying on biased sources without evidence. Still in Africa, the International Criminal Court (ICC) during the week opened a new investigation into alleged war crimes in the Darfur region of Sudan. ICC said ethnic violence has surged in Darfur as part of the conflict between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary RSF. The court's chief prosecutor, Karim Khan, identified the violence to include attacks on civilians, mass rapes, and the burning of homes and markets. Khan added that the investigation would be conducted under an existing mandate for Darfur dating back to 2005. On the foreign scene, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg in a joint press conference with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky within the week said that Putin's victory in the Russia-Ukraine war is the biggest risk to NATO. Stoltenberg, while highlighting the threat of the conflict to Europe's security landscape, said the biggest risk would be if Russian President Vladimir Putin won the war in Ukraine. He added that it is important for NATO allies to support Ukraine in winning the war against the Russian forces. Meanwhile, the UK's oldest medical union has hit out at government plans to increase the amount migrant workers pay to use the state healthcare service to cover public sector wage increases. Reports say Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's government had approved recommendation to boost wages of teachers, doctors and police by between 5.0 to 7.0%. Sunak rolled out tax increases or government's borrowing to fund the rise, but instead said hikes in the Immigration Health Surcharge (IHS) and visa fees would raise to £1 billion. Meanwhile, doctors in Unite, which represents junior doctors, general practitioners and hospital consultants, said it was appalled at the move, as it would see migrants pay double to use the National Health Service (NHS). In the meantime, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin during the week defended Washington's controversial decision to support Ukraine with cluster munitions despite the risks to civilians. Austin said that rated areas. Reports say cluster munition has scattered bomblets across large areas and can pose a long-term risk to anyone who encounters them, similar to landmines. Still on the foreign scene, a heat wave within the week reportedly swept across parts of southern Europe and northwest Africa, with potential record-breaking temperatures in the coming days. According to forecasters, temperatures are expected to surpass 40 degrees Celsius in parts of Spain, France, Greece, Croatia, and Turkey. In Italy, temperatures could reach as high as 48.8 degrees centigrade. And meanwhile, a red alert warning has been issued for 10 cities including Rome, Bulgaria, and Florence. Recall that on Tuesday, a man in his 40s died after collapsing in northern Italy. Reports say the 44-year-old worker was painting zebra crossing lines in the town of Lodi near Milan before he collapsed from the heat. He was taken to the hospital where he later died. On a business news, the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) in the course of the week said Nigerians can receive naira for diaspora remittances. The CBN gave the directive in a circular to all deposit money banks, international money transfer operators (IMTO), and the general public, signed by the Director, Trade and Exchange Department, Dr. O.S. Naji. It stated that further to the circular, the Central Bank of Nigeria announces naira as a payout option for receipts of proceeds of international money transfers. And while the National Bureau of Statistics (NBS) Capital Importation Report for 2023 Q1 within the week showed that foreign investment to the manufacturing sector dropped by in the first quarter of 2022. According to the report, the total capital importation into Nigeria in Q1 of 2023 stood at $1.1 billion, lower than $1.5 billion recorded in Q1 of 2022, indicating a decrease of 28%. Reports say that despite the decrease, capital importation into the production sector ranked second with 22% share of total investment, while the banking sector recorded the highest inflow of $304.5 million, representing 26.89% of total capital imported in Q1 of 2023. In the meantime, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited (NNPCL) during the week said that the federal government will renegotiate the country's production quota in the ongoing OPEC cuts by November. The group chief executive officer Miller Carey, during a live broadcast, said the country was working towards ramping up crude oil production by about 200,000 to 300,000 barrels per day, latest by October, after which it would push for an increased quota at the next OPEC meeting in November. The NNPCL boss said Nigeria's crude oil production, including condensates, was around 1.3 million barrels per day, adding that the current production is nowhere near Nigeria's capacity. Elsewhere, the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority NMDPRA in the course of the week announced that a new gas pricing template for the power sector and gas-based industries has been developed and currently awaits the approval of President Bola Tinubu. It was also revealed that legacy gas debt of the power sector to gas suppliers in Nigeria had risen to about $1 billion as efforts were ongoing to find Secretariat in Abuja. The Secretariat's coordinator and immediate past president of Nigeria Gas Association (NGA), Ed Ubong, said it was important for the government to clear the gas debts in order to boost investors' confidence in gas investment. Reports say the Decade of Gas is an initiative of the federal government that seeks to deepen domestic gas usage across the country within a 10-year period from 2021 to 2030, based on the enormous gas reserves in Nigeria that stood at over 206 trillion cubic feet. Still in business, the president of the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, Nasima Dele-Oye, during the week said that the recently launched trade will improve the non-oil trade and public presentation of the 2023 through 2027 trade and investment policies for Nigeria, organized by the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment at the Nigeria Export Promotion Council. The Nasima boss commended President Tinubu's led administration for the launch of the trade and investment policies for Nigeria. He also said that it was gratifying to see that the policy prioritized the growth of small and medium enterprises and the informal sector, which were the backbone of Nigeria's economy. Oye noted that the policy document was a blueprint that sets the tone for Nigerian businesses and investors to realize their potential in the local and international market. Lionel Messi signs contract with Inter Miami through 2025. To stay with us.
Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Every society is premised on the quality of relationships forged by its inhabitants. The health of these relationships determines how well people, relationships, organizations thrive and how long they stick together. Join Uyai Anyekan on Connect every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. and on Sunday 2:30 to 3 p.m. on Channel 421 on StarTimes to catch all the conversations, interviews, real stories and how to navigate relationships and family life in the 21st century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect live on Spectrum Television.
Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
Many thanks for staying with us. Move on to the rest of the news stories. And how the medical experts within the week said that pre-implantation genetic testing technique (PGT), which ensures the implantation and delivery of healthy babies, has helped to prevent the birth of children with severe genetic defects. The expert noted that with the latest technological breakthrough, congenital disorders including albinism, Down syndrome, autism, spectrum disorder and diseases such as sickle cell can be detected in the embryos during IVF and would not be implanted in the uterus. Meanwhile, a laboratory technician at Abuja-based Prime Laboratory, Dr. Odinaka Ndukwe, said the use of pre-implantation genetic diagnosis has expanded to prevent the birth of children affected by a number of genetically lethal and other congenital diseases. Dr. Ndukwe, who said there is no doubt that PGT has helped deliver remarkable gift to many people, said the PGT techniques are used clinically to prevent transmission of genes associated with late onset diseases and increase but not absolute disease risks. Elsewhere, the Society for Family Health during the week called for the expansion of the provision of family planning services in Nigeria and other West African countries through the private sector. The organization made the call in a statement issued by its Deputy Medical Director, Strategy and Technical, Jennifer Ayanti. Ayanti commended the federal and state government's commitment for scaling family planning services, adding that the organization supports the provision of quality service provision and products through its network of primary care providers. According to her, the private sector plays a critical role in Celine Hell, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, in the course of the week said advancing gender equality, improving maternal health and empowering women to make their own reproductive choices are crucial to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. Speaking during an event, Guterres said gender-based discrimination harms everyone, stressing the need to promote gender equality, provide education for all, empower women to make informed choices about their reproductive health for a peaceful, prosperous, and sustainable world. To the world of sport now, where the Major League Soccer team has announced that Argentine superstar Lionel Messi has signed a contract until 2025 with Inter Miami. The 36-year-old striker, who sparked Argentina to a World Cup title last year in Qatar, is set to be unveiled by the team in his ceremony today and expected to join Inter Miami on the pitch as early as Friday, the 21st day of this month. Messi's debut is expected on Friday when Inter Miami will host Cruz Azul in the Leagues Cup, a revamped competition between MLS and Mexican league squads. Demolition of the Queensland Lions in Australia in a pre-Women's World Cup friendly yesterday. Payne, who scored a goal in the friendly, said the Falcons were ready to fight against their opponents in Group B. Reports say it was the Falcons' first friendly since the setup came in Gold Coast, Australia, ahead of the 2023 Women's World Cup. Still in sport, Arsenal Football Club has introduced their newly Jogu, popularly known as Odumodu Black. Rice completed his move from West Ham United to Arsenal in a deal worth £105 million, making it the highest transfer fee ever paid by the North London club for a player. Under entertainment news, former Big Brother Niger reality star Nengi Rebecca Hampson has expressed her desire to see Paris Saint-Germain PSG forward Kylian Mbappe join Premier League side Chelsea this summer. The reality star prayed for a miracle to land the French captain in Stamford Bridge. PSG are poised to sell Mbappe before the end of the transfer window if he does not sign a contract extension. The 24-year-old's contract with PSG will expire next year, and the club does not want to take the risk of him leaving as a free agent next season. Elsewhere, the African Music Magazine Awards Afrima 2023 is set for its 10th edition. Reports say the past decades in the history of contemporary African music has been unprecedented, with numerous record-breaking achievements, and Afrima 2023 is set to honor African music ambassadors in a big way. According to Afrima Board President Anderson Obiagu, this year's ceremony promises to be the biggest and best version of the awards ceremony. The awards ceremony is set to take place at the monumental Meyerson Symphony Center in Dallas, Texas on September 17, 2023. Still on entertainment, Succession, The Last of Us, and The White Lotus within the week topped the 2023 Emmy nominations list. Reports say that Sarah Snook, Bella Ramsey, Jenna Ortega, and Jennifer Coolidge are among the stars up for acting prize. According to reports, Ted Lasso, The Bear, Abbott Elementary, and Wednesday are among the contenders in the comedy categories. However, there is significant doubt over whether the ceremony will go ahead as planned on 18 September due to the ongoing strike action in Hollywood. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtv.ng. You've been watching Spectrum TV News, a recap of major stories within the week. I am Francis Oyima, edit. To have yourself a lovely day. Many thanks for watching.